Hey guys, it's Megan from LittleTennesseeHome.com, and today I am going to show you how to make potato flake sourdough blueberry bagels. Thanks so much for joining me today. First thing that you want to get started with whenever you're making these bagels is reducing your blueberries. I like to use frozen just because I have them on hand all of the time. I don't have to worry about having fresh blueberries. However, you could use fresh blueberries if you prefer. You're going to start with 1.5 cups of frozen blueberries. And by the time you are done reducing the blueberries, it's going to come out to be about 1/2 cup of blueberries. So go ahead and get those going in a simmer pot. You want to start out on low so that you don't accidentally burn the blueberries. You just want to start thawing them. As they start to thaw, you'll be able to kind of smash the blueberries a little bit. Once you see some juices kind of pooling on the bottom, you can turn it to low medium. Just keep a close eye on it so that they don't burn. Once you notice that they are getting soft, I like to press on them just a little bit to release a little bit more of the juices. I just think that this makes the blueberry flavor so much better, and you're going to get the burst of blueberries in your bagels if you use the dried blueberries as well, so I'm not as concerned about keeping my blueberries whole for this reason. Now, doing this is probably going to take somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes, just depending on if you use frozen blueberries or fresh. And if you turn it up a little bit higher and keep a closer eye on it, then you could probably make it reduce a little bit quicker. So just a tip, if you accidentally reduce too much, you can just add a little bit of water back in with your blueberries to make it the full 1/2 cup. I do like to put mine in the refrigerator so that they can start cooling down while I'm measuring out some of my other ingredients. So next I'm going to add my all-purpose flour into my stand mixer bowl. It's going to be 4 cups or 560 grams. I really do think that measuring in grams is a more precise way to make sure that you get your accurate measurements, because 1 cup of flour can weigh so many different weights if you scoop it one way or spoon it into your cup. It just is all going to depend on how much flour gets packed down in your cup as to how much your flour is going to weigh. So if you have a scale, I highly recommend using it and measuring it out to 560 grams. The order of the ingredients that you add to your stand mixer bowl doesn't really matter. I typically add my flour first, but you're also going to add your salt, which is going to be 2 teaspoons of salt, which is 15 grams. You're going to add water, 1/2 cup of water. You are also going to add your 1/2 cup of reduced blueberries. Make sure that they have cooled down enough that they are not going to kill your starter. I like to add cold water to my warm reduced blueberries, and that will help not only cool it down, but you can just use the same measuring cup and not have to get out another one. Just add that cold water on top of your warm blueberries. Add that to your stand mixer bowl. You're also going to add your potato flake sourdough starter. You do want to make sure that it is active. It's going to be 190 grams or 3/4 cup of potato flake sourdough starter. To make sure that it is active, you just want it to have been fed in the last 8 to 48 hours, and you should be able to hear or see signs of activity in your starter. Again, make sure that the blueberries are not still scalding hot whenever you add your potato flake starter, or it will kill it. Now, in this video, I forget to add my dried blueberries here at the beginning, so I add them here in just a few minutes, but you can, and normally I do add the dried blueberries from the very beginning so that I don't have to add them in later on. When you get started mixing in your stand mixer, you do want to make sure that you start out on a low speed, because if you start out on a high speed, you are definitely going to sling flour all over the place. So start out low, mix it on low speed. You can leave it on low speed for 5 to 10 minutes, and that will knead your dough enough that it will pull away from the sides and it will no longer be sticky but a little bit tacky. You do want to make sure that you let it knead until it is pulled away from the sides of the bowl and that the dough is tacky and not sticky. Those are really your key indicators of if your dough is ready, rather than the amount of time that is spent in the mixer. So I'm going to speed it up here so that you don't have to watch it in real time, but I do want you to be able to see the process of it going from the ingredients to the final dough and what it will look like once it is done mixing and kneading in the bowl. Okay, so once it's done, go ahead and get any of the dough that might be stuck on the hook and add that to the dough ball. Get your bowl off of the stand mixer. You can look and see how well this dough has come together. The sides of the bowl are nice and clean, and it is a tacky but not sticky dough. Now you are going to take your dough out of the bowl and you want to kind of shape it into a nice ball. So you can see that it sticks to my hands just a little bit, but not so much that I cannot handle the dough without my hands being covered in it. You're going to grease your bowl and cover it with plastic wrap. Let your dough rise at room temperature somewhere between 8 and 12 hours, or until it is double in size. Once your dough has doubled in size, you will be ready to shape your bagels. Now, I did not have time to shape my bagels once my dough was about doubled. So what I did was I stuck this bowl in the refrigerator for probably about 12 hours. Whenever I had the time to shape them into bagels, I pulled it out of the refrigerator. You can see that this dough is still pretty stiff from being cold in the refrigerator. I actually think that it makes it a little bit easier in the shaping process because the dough is not sticky at all because of how cold it is. So you can choose to do that if you want it to be a little bit easier to shape, and it also allows for the dough to ferment a bit longer and make it even easier for your body to digest. But you can also go ahead and shape them right away once it's doubled. You don't have to flour your work surface unless it is sticking really badly. I just dump it out on my counter, use my bench scraper to divide the dough into 8 equal pieces. And when I say equal, you can eyeball it or you can weigh it. Just for the purposes of these being pretty close in size, I decided to go ahead and weigh them on my kitchen scale. The best way to do this is to weigh your dough ball first and see how much it weighs in total, and then divide that by 8, which is going to be the number of bagels you will have. Then you will get the weight measurement for how much each dough ball should weigh. You can also do it by dividing it and then just kind of getting them about the same in weight. Just weigh each of them. Honestly, this is just whatever works for you. So once you get them all about the same size, then you are going to start shaping each of the pieces into a ball. The way that I like to shape them into a ball is I kind of just press the dough flat, then pull the sides up and pinch it together on the top. Then I will turn it over with the pinched seam side down onto the counter, and I will pull the dough ball towards me, creating tension against the dough using the countertop. I continue doing this kind of in a circular motion Continue pulling until the top of my dough ball is nice and tight. If I get any of the dried blueberries right on the surface, I might pull that off and stick it on the bottom, just because it might not make the most pretty bagel. However, it is not going to affect its taste or the way that it will rise or anything like that. But I am making these for someone else, so I want them to look as pretty as possible. Once you get all of your dough balls shaped, you're going to want to cover them with plastic wrap and let them rest for about 5 minutes before you move on to adding the hole in the middle of the bagels. The reason that you need this rest time is because it allows it to relax, and so that the dough is a lot softer. This will be easier for you to shape it and the dough not tear, but rather it will form to the shape that you're wanting it to, because the dough has had time to soften up. While you're waiting on the bagels to rest for 5 minutes, go ahead and prepare your cookie sheet with some parchment squares. You can use just parchment paper, but I really would suggest going ahead and cutting them into squares, because it's going to make it so much easier whenever you get ready to transfer the bagels to boil them on the stovetop. I will link in the description box below some already pre-cut parchment squares. You will find that these come in handy for so many different things, not just making bagels. There's lots of different uses for them. The way that I like to add the hole in my bagels, there's a lot of different processes out there, but this is what I find works best for me, is I like to poke a hole with my finger in the very center. Then using my thumbs and fingers, I will stretch the dough. I will also spin the dough around my fingers to help stretch the dough ball and form the hole in the middle of the bagel. You want the hole to be a lot bigger than you actually envision it being in the end product, because it's going to shrink as the dough rises in the water and in the oven. Once you have all of your bagels shaped and on the cookie sheet on their parchment paper squares, you're going to want to cover them up with plastic wrap and let them rise for another 1 to 3 hours until they're puffy. I want to make note that you do not want to let your bagels rise until they're doubled, because if you do this, they are going to fall. They're going to be overproofed. You basically just want them puffy to the touch, not feeling stiff. They are going to rise more whenever you put them in the water and whenever you put them in the oven. So once they feel like they have become puffy, you want to go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Then get a large pot of water and bring it to a gentle boil. While you're waiting on your water to boil, this is a good time to gently remove all of the bagels off of your cookie sheet onto your counter or some other workspace. That way you can use your cookie sheet and line it with a new sheet of parchment paper for whenever the bagels are done boiling. You can use just another cookie sheet if you want, but if you only have one large cookie sheet, this is the way that I make it work, by gently taking them off of the cookie sheet and lining it with a new sheet of parchment paper. Once it is boiling, go ahead and add the baking soda and the brown sugar to the boiling water. It's going to be 1 tablespoon of baking soda and 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. I use dark brown sugar, but you could use light brown sugar if that is what you have on hand. Once you add that to the water, you are going to want to gently pick up one bagel with the parchment paper underneath it and gently flip it over into the water. And as soon as you flip it into the water, the parchment paper is going to release away from the dough, so it will just come off and you can throw that away. Then you're going to want to immediately use a chopstick or something similar size to put in the hole and spin it around to help the hull of the bagel not close up in the water. Then you're going to repeat this process with 2 more bagels in the pot. Usually about 3 can fit in a large pot comfortably because you don't want to overcrowd your bagels in the pot. You're going to boil each bagel about 1 minute per side. So you will notice that the bagels will go in a very bright purple color, and soon after being in the water, they're going to start turning a darker color. By the time that they are done in the water, they are going to be a very dark blue, almost black looking color. So once the first one has had about 1 minute, you're going to gently use your large slotted spoon to flip it over in the water. Once each one is done, allow some of the water to drip off and transfer it over to your prepared parchment lined baking sheet. Repeat this process until all of your bagels have been boiled. Once all of them have been boiled, then you're going to put it into the 350-degree oven and bake for about 20 to 25 minutes. Once they're done baking in the oven, remove the cookie sheet and allow the bagels to cool on a wire rack before slicing them open. I like to toast mine in the toaster and spread some yummy cream cheese on the top. But however it is that you like to enjoy them, they are going to be delicious regardless. I hope that this video has been helpful in your bagel making journey. The same type of process really applies for any bagels, no matter what flavor, but this is specific to the blueberry bagel on my blog at littletennesseehome.com. You can find the full recipe in the description box below. Also, make sure that you have liked and subscribed if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching today. See you again soon.